along those same lines, though, with the stagnation of the designs, dude, about like 10 years ago, you might have seen, I think it was a JBJ that had it wasn't the BioCube, but it was glass, and it had like a curved front, and it had the filtration in the back, and it had like, a nice collection of corals. I like how you took note that my reefing style changed after Eco Reef 0 and Eco Reef 1. And for those of you listening, I'd like to let you know that there are videos of those tanks on YouTube. Just type in Eco Reef 0 or Eco Reef 1, and I think there's a couple videos up there. But in that tank, dude, that tank is almost identical to every tank available on the market today.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference being, like, now the trend is for high clarity glass and sharp corners. But other than that, it's just the same. But one thing that I had done back then to get more flow, because I wasn't happy with whatever return pump was in there, not to mention the return pump was not very serviceable because it's down at the bottom of the back filter compartment, and then it goes up and it bends over and it's got a little nozzle. But I drilled it out. I drilled out a nice big hole, like a wide diameter hole, and I shoved the ball-shaped Tunzi Nano Stream, just one of the awesomest small workhorse pumps of all time.
Yeah.
And I literally took a plastic bottle and just cut the cylinder out to just press right behind the pump, and all of a sudden, now I had like a ball socket propeller pump providing a bunch of flow to the tank and driving water through the aquarium. We've seen nothing even approaching that.
No, everything's got like a pinky-sized nozzle coming out the all-in-one back, right? Why not do like a stream type, wide flow pump as a return?
You know why? Because like an off-brand Nano Stream knockoff would be like $20, and an off-brand centrifugal pump is like $3. Well, I'm talking about like a wholesale price, manufacturer distribution price. That's basically what it boils down to. They want to harp on how clear their glass is, and they have mitered corners and beveled edges, and like, oh, dude, it's just glass. It holds water at the end of the day. But yeah, if you look at the whole landscape, they're so cookie cutter. I feel like there's so much more room for improvement. Okay, here's another idea. I had a 20-gallon long Zebra Placo tank. I had some waterproof LED strips underneath the glass. So when you looked at the tank, it just glowed. There was no wires. There was nothing over the tank. It just looked like it glowed from inside. I'm like, waterproof LED strips have been around for a really freaking long time. I think with just a little bit more effort, you could put together actually all-in-one Nano Reef tank for about $100 that actually included a decent water flow pump and even some starter lighting. Like give them one strip light, and then offer some extra strip lights to go under the glass to help keep the tank warm and stuff. But yeah,
I'll go for another one. Why do nano tank manufacturers that also make larger tanks, the stands on the nano tanks just look like miniature stands that you see on the larger tanks? If you don't have a sump anymore, if it's an all-in-one, and the weight is less of an issue, right? We're talking about 10 gallons is a little over 100 pounds or 15 or 20. Do something cool with the stands, man. Like, make it an interesting furniture piece, right? Something, because people are going to, especially if you look up some of these more notable nano reefs, right? Like, part of what makes them notable on Instagram is the environment around it, right? Like, they'll have this super cool shallow nano reef on a really nice mid-century console table or something, and it's just the whole vibe of it, right? Like, why not do some interesting stands? I mean, I don't know.
I'll one-up you again.
Oh, man.
A built-in protein skimmer.
Yeah.
Air-driven protein skimmer.
Why is it so hard for these nano tanks to do a skimmer? I don't get that.
Just include a tiny little compartment that just has like literally a baffle that curves inwards to make a little foam collector. And for tanks about that size, I would argue that it's a lot easier to change out $1 limewood airstone than it is to take out a tiny micro needle wheel pump and try to clean the impeller out.
True.
That would be such a great what do they call those things? consumable. It would be such a great consumable product. Like you could sell, 2 packs of Limewood air stones for like $10. You have $1 in the 2 plus packaging plus distribution, and a small little air pump. Dude, I have so many USB air pumps. They make really awesome tiny micro air pumps now that use the piezoelectric effect to pump air. So it's not a diaphragm, and technically it's solid state. It's hyper quiet, and if you really want a little nano skimmer in your AIO, just include one of those. There's so much low hanging fruit for making all-in-one reef. I love how we're talking about reef tanks, and most of the discussion is like, y'all need to step up. Well, y'all need to step up with what you're offering.
Look at it as an investment, right? As the manufacturer or whoever, maybe your profit margins or your net revenue, if you overbuild something, is not great. But if the success factor of the people that are buying these tanks goes up, and you build out that community bigger, like you're building out a larger customer base over time, right? Like maybe. Manufacturers will sometimes have that where they build products where the margins aren't so good on them, but it's like the gateway drug, right? That's how you get them in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like sell me an all-in-one tank where you make like $5, but then sell me, a 2-pack of $10 wooden air stones that I buy every 2 months.
Yeah.
Like you have all that, but to your greater point, that definitely that's been fueling the hobby for sure. I think that's not a discussion that's been had, and I think that's going to be a common theme here on Reef Therapy, is how much the Nano Reef tanks have fueled the overall reef aquarium hobby to the point now where we have a lot of people who've been keeping reef tanks for 10 years or more. I mean, that used to be such a rare person back in the day.
Yeah, like I said, I think there's more creativity, more interesting things often in the nano space. I'm usually more blown away by a tank in the nano spectrum than I am on the larger reefs, which I think it goes to something you said earlier too, that when it's a small package, you're a little more willing to be experimental because the investment isn't as big, right? Like. Mm-hmm. I'm going to set up a 180-gallon tank, that's going to be like that, like your elegance coral, right? Like nobody's going to invest that much money into something experimental, like, not nobody, but not a lot of people, right? Or
no one has.
Yeah, I'm going to dedicate a whole tank to gorgonians, right? Like that. On a 180 would be cool. Yeah.
That would be very, very cool, especially a 210 that was nice and tall.
I agree, but you usually see the nano guys say, hey, I'm going mono-specific on my coral, or something cool. And so I give them that community a lot of credit for that.
What also would be great for a nano reef tank is one Christmas tree worm rock.
Yeah.
I have a 30-gallon tank with like 5 or 6 pieces and a bunch of clams and a couple frags thrown around, but that would be such a great like spotlight specimen in a single nano reef tank. But I have very much have the get off my lawn old guy feelings about so many trends in the reef aquarium hobby, deep sand bed, micro scrubbing nano bubbles. What is it? The zigzag photo period that people are just experimenting with stuff that doesn't need to be fixed. But one trend that I really can get behind is the floating aquascapes.
Yeah. I was talking
very, very cool. That's been done a variety of different ways, but like, how cool would it be if someone either offered an all-in-one tank that had, maybe like a hang-on bracket, or kind of a built-in metal part in the back of the glass where you could add like magnetic shelves and stuff. So instead of having individual magnetic shelves, the whole back of your tank would be magnetic, or even just the top 2/3, so you can put stuff anywhere you want. That's another one. It's like
what about three-dimensional backgrounds, right, made out of ceramic? That you could do that with a nano and package it like that.
You could print your own with a 3D printer. I'm a little bit standoffish on like ceramic stuff now because they've just I don't know how much faith I have in companies to be like curing those really adequately
Yeah.
to get rid of the aluminum.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I think ICP testing has taught us is like, yo, just be careful of any ceramic-based products with aluminum. So I learned that from my old nano tank and adding the carbon. But yeah, these just dedicated all-in-one tanks and yeah, floating aquascapes. I gotta flex on that one at some point. At some point, I got to do my version of that. I think I want to hang a hanging bracket off the back instead of a magnetic mount because I feel like that'll be a lot less stress on the back glass, especially as the corals grow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've got this false wall to work with, right? That hides all the filtration. Why just have it be a piece of glass? Like, somebody could make that too, right? You got companies that make aftermarket media baskets for specific nano tanks. Somebody could get into start getting Marco rocks or whatever and start creating aquascapes that are specifically sized for those nano reefs that, like you said, maybe they magnet or attach to that back wall, or they cover the whole wall, and who knows, right? I tried to do the ceramic back wall once, and it didn't work out. But in a nano, I don't think that's such a bad idea because, especially when you got this little cube, you have that whole sand bed in front of you then that's still open.
Sand bed? What's that?
Well, okay. You have this whole space in front of you where you can still do a lot with, right? Like a wall, like a false wall of rock on a big tank, yeah, okay. But on a little nano, it always made a little more sense to me to use that vertical space and keep that front area of water more open, right? You want to maximize the flow, and it's let's not pretend it's not a small tank, and your fish probably enjoy a little more swimming room.
Yeah, that is the thing. Like, it's really daunting to whip out some cement or some putty or some of the thermoplastic beads and create something really custom for a very large tank. But man, you can really cut your teeth putting together a very small little, rock tree or something for your nano reef tank. That might give you experience to lead up to larger aquariums, man. So like nano reef tanks, they're just like the lifeblood of creativity for the reef aquarium hobby.
Agreed.
For sure. The only reason I don't have more nano tanks here at the studio is because I have a ton of, what is that? Sorry. East, south, and west facing windows. And the first tank I set up here at the studio was a nano tank, like a token nano tank. I just plopped a couple hammer corals in there, maybe a little bit of candy, and like a dotty back. Insta Reef, that's the other thing. We're going to come back to that. And but throughout the seasons, the light kept coming from a different direction, so I have to set up like this one particular space here in the studio where all the nano tanks can go. They're always going to be sheltered by seasonally changing sunlight, because it's a delicate balance of giving them enough light, not too little light. But as soon as sun rays coming from somewhere, it's all over. It's all over, man.
Yeah, I tore down my well, it wasn't a nano. It was the one size up from the Red Sea Nano, the E170. But yeah, I first converted it to planted freshwater just because I got so annoyed with it. This was when I was battling dinos in both of my tanks. And I got so fed up. I was like, I can only do battle in one tank, so I converted to freshwater. Plus, that was in the most visible part of my house. High traffic zone, so that's not the place where you want primordial soup on display. And then when that guy posted about the temperature, and I experimented by raising the temperature, and boom, dino problems were solved. I was like, damn it! I wish I had stumbled into that information a little sooner, because I might still have a little cube reef tank upstairs. But yeah,
you know what should be cool, man, is and you were talking about planted aquariums, and this is something that's like almost not fair, that the Planet Aquarium people, they will set up a display to reach like their creative vision, take those photos, take the videos, shut her down, it's over.
Yep.
So maybe you and I could do like a 3-month little nano reef tank. Just do something random with one small little nano reef tank.
Yeah, especially if you got a big reef that you can throw everything back in and reboot
Yep.
from. And I noticed the Planet guys do that too. They usually have there's a name for it. They've got like a tank where they keep all their plants.
No way.
Yeah, there's a
I'm a
couple.
lot of plant groups.
Well, there's a
Never
couple
heard
of
of this.
YouTube guys I follow, and like when they do their little tank tours, they're like, "This is my, I don't know."
Shuffling tank or something?
Yeah, yeah, it's where they just got random plants growing, and they can pick out of to do an aquascape for a little while, and then they throw them back in this, just messy tank where everything's growing like crazy. And in a way, if you've got like a big reef tank, you can kind of do that with a Nano, right? You can like take some corals out, do a cool thing, and then it's not evil if you tear it down because it's not like it's going to into the trash. It's going into your big healthy reef tank. I don't know. I kind of like your idea.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Maybe next winter we're spending a little bit more time inside, but just do like a 3-month Nano Reef tank challenge. I know there's a lot of people who'd be down, be like, "Yo,
I suck
let's
at
see what we
nanos
can."
though, so I'll do it. I'll play, but
You only have to coast for
yeah,
12 weeks.
yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, I think that was a great little discussion on the Nano Reef tanks and their place in the reef aquarium hobby. I get that some people want to have a hyper-engineered reef tank with all the bells and whistles, but I guess for me what stands out the most is when you use kind of creative thinking to take away different things. Like, we spent a lot of time talking about lids, but that can maintain your temperature, maintain your salinity, keep the fish inside. So there's a lot of awesome benefits of doing that. Anything else you wanted to mention about Nano Reef tanks?
So I brought this up before in private, not on our talks, but there was a great TED talk which could be very applicable to nano reefs in the sense that limitations drive creativity, right?
Oh yeah, you've been mentioning that a lot lately.
Yeah.
Tell us more about it.
Well, I'd have to look up the guy's name, but maybe we can put it in the comments. But it was an artist, and he was into pointillism, where you make a larger picture that really is a lot of tiny dots, right? And he developed a shake in his hand. He couldn't do that art anymore. And so he goes to a neurologist, and the neurologist says, "Well, why don't you just embrace the shake?" And
Embrace the shake, okay.
and so he did, and then he started to realize that limitations were actually forcing his creativity. And like, whereas when he got a good paying job and he went to the art store and bought all these art supplies, he was paralyzed, right? Like he had so many options and choices that his creativity vaporized. But if he limited his options, his creativity flourished. And maybe that's why you see more creativity in nano tanks, because you already have an inherent limitation in size, right? It's a very small box. You're limited by what kind of species you can keep in there. You're limited in the dimensions that you can aquascape with. So that, in a way, I think drives creativity. Whereas you give somebody a 6-foot tank, the sky's the limit. What's the saying? Happiness is the absence of choice, right? Like, you give somebody a 180, there's a million things they can do, and there's that analysis paralysis, and you end up in community tank zone, right, where you just have like every type of coral and every type of fish, and it's just it's really not that much more special than the next guy's 6-foot tank. So